Well, today is August 18th, 2014, and as you can probably tell from the picture here, I'm back in the American Southwest. I've come here to kind of follow up on some of that borders information that I put out on my borders video back in 2011. And of course, before I get started, I'd like to show you some things. This is, I believe they call it prickly pear cactus. And you know, then these are cactuses too, these long stringy ones up here. I don't remember the name of them right now. It's been a little too long for me to recall that. Okay, so I'll walk into the frame here, and yeah, I've been out here for a few days. I wanted to start off without my sunglasses if I could, but I'm gonna have to put them back on. I've also been wearing a hat, of course, with the sun being what it is, but during the videos, you know, I notice that a lot of times the shadows are kind of bad underneath there and you can't really see. Not that that matters, but at any rate. So, well, probably a lot of things to talk about here. You know, we've got Ferguson going on, we've got all the wars, you know, the problem in Ukraine. We've got the immigration problem, and you know, I do a lot of synthesizing of information, and when I look at things, of course, I look at it from the point of view of my background and my experiences, and you know, all of this I see as kind of a pre-planned event with of course a lot of scenarios going on underneath that, with the end purpose to basically end the American dream of liberty is really what it's about. We see no one in government held accountable for any of the crimes that they've committed, and they are crimes, no doubt about it. Everything from Fast and Furious to you know, giving arms to the Libyan and Syrian Al-Qaeda, the assistance of ISIS, and the ongoing disinformation that's coming from the main media, and of course they're getting it from the government because they're really the propaganda arm of the government. But you know, that's such a big picture, it's hard to really grasp, and it's hard for us as people to believe that there would be those in power who would actually want to bring these things about. But you know, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the rich and the powerful, the politically placed, really do want a feudal system because that's the best way to control the people and the resources, rather than a liberty system. So it's really not hard to understand. It's not hard to understand when you look at the history of the liberty movement from, as I've said before, from ancient times until the present. And you know, I suppose that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar making his statements about what's going on in Ferguson is probably not far from the truth, that it really comes down to a class war, but they don't really want that. The people in power don't want it to quite go there. They want it to be a race war between all of us who are actually victims of this tyrannical oppression that is being manipulated and constructed around us. So, of course, before I start here, I want to say this. Let's do our best. And I know very few people watch this channel, but do our very best to spread the notion, the truth actually, that we the people really need each other, and that liberty should not suffer at the hands of these tyrants that are running our governments, either out front like the puppets like Obama and Holder, those types of people, or behind the scenes like Soros and Buffett and the Rothschilds, etc. They're all warring against all of the classes below them, and the best way to do that, you know, I think I've said this before, when cops go to a bar fight, the very best way to approach a bar fight is let them fight it out inside first, get weak, and then go in, you know, and that's what's happening here. I want to show a couple things. The first being this, that the militarization of the domestic police. Now, the shooting in Ferguson, I've looked into it a little bit, and there's going to be pros and cons on both sides about whether it's justified or not. Frankly, I don't think it's justified. Anytime you shoot an unarmed person, that's wrong. The Zimmerman situation had some other mitigating circumstances involved in it. Change a little bit of the scenery there. The shooting in Ferguson was, I think, unjustified from what I can see. And the real point of all this, whether or not this is just being something that's being taken advantage of by the powers that be to push their agenda, which of course is going to happen, whether the cop was improperly trained or whether he just wanted to shoot somebody, I don't really know, as far as what was going on in his mind. But I will say this, that it used to be that police officers were bugs, were public safety officers, that the safety of the public came first. Officer safety was a consideration, of course, but it's now reached the level that the officers are the only human beings, that the cops are the only human beings, and only they deserve protection. And so it's way gone the other side, where, as I was starting to mention, the Boston situation with bringing those thousands of basically armed troops into Boston, and then conducting what in reality was a Fallujah campaign, pointing weapons at American citizens, men, women, and children, for no reason, barging in on their homes. We saw that. America didn't wake up really that well when that happened, because we thought that it was a terrorist thing, and of course I don't believe that's the case at all. There's no evidence that either of those brothers was at the finish line, for instance. But at any rate, the militarization of that reaction and the domination, the tyrannical domination that we saw there. We saw it at the Bundy Ranch, even before the militia arrived, and I want to make that point, okay? The BLM was pointing weapons, automatic weapons and sniper rifles at innocent civilians, setting up picnic tables, all right? And the entire thing at the Bundy Ranch was, as far as the people were concerned, was a reaction to that tyranny, to that abuse of power by government. It wasn't an attempt to dismantle the government. It was saying, government, you've gone too far here. This is wrong. And we're seeing the same thing now in Ferguson. Now, I realize that, you got to keep the public order. Okay, I understand that. But this is overkill, as usual. As usual. The government wants to prove that it's the big boy. Okay? And it is not your friend, as I've said dozens and dozens of times. I saw footage, and most of you probably have. They're armed with automatic rifles again. Here we are. What? Automatic rifles? They have an MRAP, pointing the weapon up on top on the turret at everyone. Now, you could say, well, that's armed with rubber bullets. I really don't care. It's the image that's wrong in and of itself. And no, I don't think they're just rubber bullets. You got rattlesnakes and other things around here. Anyway, unfortunately, that's not one, but at first I thought it might be. So, what am I saying here? Well, this whole thing is being orchestrated very much like a conductor of a symphony orchestra. They're doing all these different things. Do you notice how it's all hitting us at the same time? The immigration problem, they focus on these children, but they're only 20%, as I said before. We're seeing militarized units coming across the border. Then you'll see other people coming across the border that will go to these places like Ferguson. There's going to be a lot of provocateuring here. And ladies and gentlemen, what I want to say to you is this. America is sick. The leaders that are in power are there because the rest of us are sick. All right? We've lost truth. We've lost the true principles upon which liberty can flourish. Does that mean we don't deserve it? No. It means that the leadership that was supposed to keep us there has betrayed us. And I hold them directly responsible for taking us all down this road. But we can't let them do it. We can't sit back and just allow it to happen. We have to choose the right. Well, I just wanted to bring this out so that you know that I'm aware of these things going on. What I would say is this, is that we need to keep the principles of liberty in our hearts and minds. We need to love our neighbor as ourselves. We need to hold the government responsible for the terrible things that are going on. Okay? That's what we need to do. On a ranch road here. So, that would be my my hope and prayer that the people don't get sucked into this thing and become the unwitting pawns of these criminals at the top of this government. Respond to the government doing what's wrong. You know, notice again at Bundy Ranch, we didn't go downtown and burn up places in Mesquite, right, or in Bunkerville when the feds were out there doing what they were doing. That's not what the people did. They responded directly to the government itself, which is the heart of the problem. Our sickness in this country is due to the government. It's gone too far. All right? So people in Ferguson, if any of you happen to listen to this or know anybody who's there and involved in this, you know, don't take your anger out on your fellow man, your fellow sojourner. Be them white, red, yellow, I don't care what their race is, you know, or their religion or whatever. Everybody's just trying to figure things out and get along. It's the government that's putting us at odds with each other. You must understand that that's what's going on here. This is deliberate manipulation using the media. The media, Hannity and Beck, and I brought this up before, they know very dang well that the sources they got for the information on the Bundy Ranch calling Cliven Bundy a racist because they excerpted out a couple of statements he made and deliberately misinformed the public on what his speech was about. The same thing with what's going on in Ukraine. The same thing that's going on in Syria. The attacks on Christians. The fact that they're called Christians and conservatives and gun owners and vets are called domestic terrorists here in the U.S. You've got to see this. And I've been pleading with everyone on this and for so long. I just can't believe that people don't see it or don't care. But that's what's happening. So, we're being attacked from underneath by criminals. We're being attacked from the top by government. And the good people are being squeezed in the middle. And and the powers that be are trying to force you to choose not the side of right and wrong, but what side you're going to do the most harm to somebody else. Let's not fall to that. Let's go, and if you want to take your anger out, and this is not talking about rebellion against the government. This is a legitimate revolt against the government. All right? It's not saying we don't want the laws. It's not saying, at least most a lot of laws are bad, but I'm saying that we don't want to overthrow the government. We want to hold those people in power who are abusing us, who are murdering us, who are stealing our money, who are taking our property, who are poisoning the minds of our children. We want to go after the leaders and hold them responsible. Don't go after your next door neighbor because you think he's a little better off than you. That class distinction is ridiculous. Okay? You can't distinguish how that person got the money or whether or not they deserve it. But those politicians, those leaders, those police chiefs, those federal and state and local government employees that are out there doing these things, you can hold them responsible because the people are the last word in any law. And they've tried to do away with jury nullification on law, of course, in the court system, but it's still in the Constitution. It's still there. Again, this is not calling for rebellion against the government. It's calling against a revolt against those tyrants, against those murderers, those thieves, those criminals in government. And I'm not going to sit there here and enumerate all of those again and again and again. My basic point: don't take your frustration out on other people. If you're black, don't take it out on white. If you're white, don't take it out on black. That kind of thing. Don't do that. That's what they want. They want to make you think that's where the issues are, and they are not there. They're in a government that is out of control. And it's been this way for a long time. I'm not saying just now. I mean, this was a situation, I don't know how you feel about the JFK assassination or the Martin Luther King assassination or any of those things. But it's been going on a lot longer than just now. Okay? They just kill anybody that gets in their way or that might, make the system work the way it's supposed to. Well, I'm rambling on here a little bit. I've got a lot on my mind. There's a lot of things going on. I'm out here trying to figure out what's going on with this border situation, and it's not good. It's obvious. And it's not a mistake. It's not because, there have been problems in South America and Central America for a long time. This is a deliberate attempt to destabilize the United States and bring the insurgency from Mexico here. And we've really had it here anyway, disguised as the drug war, which it really isn't. Drugs are just like, under this situation, the tool they're using to foment it. But it really is an insurgency. And now the government is actively bringing those people here. Ferguson's just a small taste of what's coming. My old mantra: prepare. Get your food, get your water, get a group of people together that you can trust. Get out of the way the best way you can. If you can get out of the system, even better. Understand the necessity of tactical and tactical security, and if it's large enough, if states begin to do the right things, then strategic security. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of trust in anybody in government. I just don't. The desert has its own type of beauty. You know, I've shown you the desert before, but probably not up this close. And I've shown you mountains and oceans, those types of things. But I just wanted to go through here, being careful that I don't run into a rattlesnake anywhere. You know, they're all over the place out here, especially with the rain that they've had here lately. Now it's really encouraged them to come out. But I wanted to show you some of this if I could. It's really fascinating to see some of this. Barrel cactus there. You actually get water out of those, by the way. On the prickly pear you can eat. These things, I showed you them from a distance, and I don't know what they're called. I apologize for that, but I don't know what these are called. But I wanted you to see them. There's just a whole grove of them here. It's really quite fascinating. So I guess I'll leave it at that, and I hope you found this somewhat interesting, and keep your ears to the ground and your eyes on the horizon. Yes, we do find evidence of movement through all these different places. They apparently liquid fuel up and get ready for the rest of the journey, and they dump these here so they're not carrying them. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the DOJ responding to the Ferguson thing. You know, they're saying they're doing an autopsy and they're going to check and see if there was abuse of power by these local police and that stuff. You know, it's interesting. I would be remiss if I didn't point this out. The federal government is the one responsible for militarizing the attitudes of police and giving them this militarized equipment. And then they wonder why they turn around and do what they do? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. I mean, that's absolutely asinine. You know, in other words, the federal government does this, all of this stuff, giving police military equipment and military training to use on American citizens, and then they act like the saviors to come and say, hey, you shouldn't be acting like that, when, you know, they're playing both sides of the spectrum again. Do you see that? Do you see this full spectrum dominance where they control all sides of the chaos of the issue? Just be aware of that. I don't know if you can see that lizard there. Let's see. Yeah, there he goes. It's hot here. I'd say it's probably about 95, something like that right now. Yeah, we got a little breeze, but it's pretty warm. And I'm not going to really show you much of what I'm doing here. I did that in Borders, Mexican drug war insurgency many years ago, 2011. But I am back checking on it, and maybe I'll put up some footage, maybe I won't. But at least you know that I'm aware of what's going on, and that I do place the blame on all of this on the elitist upper class that most people don't even know exists or can't comprehend that it's not just the next, like I said, the next door neighbor that has a boat and you don't. It's way beyond that. They're way beyond that. It is the politicians. That's where we can start. The politicians, the government people that are closing their eyes and for a paycheck or for the idea that they have some power are abusing you. That's who we have to hold.